I believe that if I share my story of toxic parents who were both narcissists, that maybe this will help somebody else who has complex PTSD. They made me feel all my life that all my problems with my mental health were all of my making, when now I realise that I struggled in the main because of how they were towards me. And they made me feel like that all my life, and still to this day I'm struggling to get over these problems. I'm nearly 70 now, and I'm in the midst of having counselling now, which does seem to help a great deal. I hope with my videos to help at least one person who is going through what I'm going through, and making them see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It was 1964. I just turned 9, and it was Christmas. Difficult story to tell, but I want to tell it anyway. So, Christmas morning, I wake up. I'm in a double bed with my sister because we share a room, and we also share a bed because Mum and Dad can't really afford anything else. Now, on Christmas morning, our presents are always left at the end of the bed in a pillowcase from Santa, ready and waiting for us for the morning. So I woke up really early, and it was still dark, so I knew I shouldn't get up because Mum and Dad would get annoyed if I got up early, even though it was Christmas morning. So I knew that I needed to lay there and perhaps go back to sleep if I possibly could. So I laid there for a while, and then, went back to sleep after a while, and then woke up again, and it was light. So I thought, well, I don't know what the time is, but it's Christmas morning. It must be okay. I can go and open my presents. So I got out of bed, and it was really cold because houses were in those days, but I guess I was so excited I just wanted to go and open my presents up. So I got down to the end of the bed, and I could see my sister's bag leaning against the bed, her pillowcase leaning against the bed, but I didn't have anything, and I thought, well, that's strange, and obviously a little bit upset because I didn't quite know what was going on. So I thought, well, I'll just go in my brother's room and see what he's got. So he had a bedroom of his own, just a single room. Went in there, and yes, he had a pillowcase at the end of his bed, and like my sister's, his was pretty much full up. We were quite lucky in those days that we had quite a lot of aunts and uncles that could afford to buy us presents, because Mum and Dad certainly couldn't. They'd just buy us a couple of things. So yeah, we were quite lucky in that respect, that there were a few presents to open. Anyway, so I went back in the bedroom again. I thought, well, you know, what is going on? So started sort of looking underneath the bed, thinking, okay, it might be here. Anyway, couldn't find it. So by this time I'd obviously disturbed Mum and Dad, and I can, you know, hear them calling out, saying, come on down then and open your presents. So we'd go down to the lounge, where hopefully there'd be a fire started so that it would be nice and warm in there. So I went on downstairs, as did my brother and sister, and I said to Mum and Dad, I haven't got any presents. Gary and Lindy have got theirs. I haven't got any presents. And then my dad looked at me and sort of smirked, as did my mum, and they both said, well, you're going to have to look for them. And I thought, surely Santa leaves everybody's presents in the same place. Why should I have to look for mine? So sister and brother sat down on the rug in front of the fire and started opening their presents, and meanwhile I'm just looking everywhere. I'd looked all round my bedroom, so I went back upstairs. I went into my brother's bedroom to have a look in there. I went into his little wardrobe, into the cupboard in the hall, into our wardrobe, into the bathroom. Nothing. Not really supposed to go in Mum and Dad's room, but I thought, well, maybe. So I thought, I'll go in there, and I looked in their wardrobe and under the bed and absolutely couldn't find nothing. So I went downstairs, and into the lounge, and I said, I can't find my presents. And they said, well, no, you've got to keep looking, keep looking. So I started looking around downstairs, went into the kitchen, went into the toilet because that was downstairs, nothing there. I even went outside because we have 2 sheds outside. So I looked in those, and I'm freezing by this time, so nothing in the sheds. We had another cupboard that was where our coal was kept because it was coal in those days. Went into that cupboard, nope, nothing in there at all. So I come back in, and I'm really quite upset by now. I don't understand, I'm 9 years old. I don't understand why I should be treated differently than my sister and brother. I just don't get it. So I go back into the lounge, and I'm feeling angry, confused, upset, really don't know what's going on. So I said to Mum and Dad, I still can't find them anywhere. Haven't I got any presents? And then my dad said to me, why don't you have a look in my guitar case? As Dad was trying to learn to play the guitar. So I went and looked in the guitar case, and there they were. Just so upset. Why would they do that to me? I got down on the floor then and just opened up all my presents. I couldn't tell you what was in the presents because I was so upset by then. I didn't really know what I got and what I didn't, because they'd taken the shine out of everything. I don't remember any of that Christmas after that. Christmases were never that brilliant in our house because we didn't have loads of money for loads of extra food and drink. There were just a few bits and pieces, and by doing this, my mum and dad had just taken it all away from me. These sort of things never happened to my brother and sister, and I never understood why I should be treated that way. Never understood it. I've only really grown to understand it as I've got older, in the fact that my parents were toxic and they were both narcissists. So what they did to me would have meant nothing to them. They just seemed to find it funny. I really couldn't get it, and obviously life carried on. But then I found when I got quite a bit older, when I was married and had left home, we would go up Mum and Dad's for, I don't know, we never seemed to go for a meal. They never really did that, but we probably went up and had some tea and some sandwiches and that, and there was always a couple of presents each. So I went up this one day, and they're sort of grinning at me, and also I can see the grins around the room. I know my brother and my sister were in on something too, and I couldn't make out what was going on. Anyway, I opened up one of my presents, and it's a loaf of bread wrapped up. Brings back all that trauma from all those years ago, and I have to try and laugh it off because this is what's expected of me. I'm just supposed to just take it on the chin and not be upset. And then there was another time a bit later on in my life when they decided they'd, rehash it all for me again. Again, same sort of scenario. At Mum's, the presents are there. I've got this present and I can see them grinning already, and I can, thinking, oh God, what is it this time? And this time was just horrendous because they'd wrapped up a fresh cow pat. It stank and it was disgusting, but they'd taken the time to wrap up a cow pat for me. And I think I must have said to them at that point, why do you do it? And they said, because you like presents. It doesn't make sense to me. what child and what grown-up doesn't like presents? We all like to be given presents. So what child doesn't like to be given them? And all they did was brought up all that anguish that I'd had from when I was young. There were other things like this, but that was one of the earliest that really, really upset me. And I've never really got over it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.